So in the off-season preview list, we're all the way up to Chicago. Yep, we're getting towards the end of this. And you know the kind of sad part is that I've been doing this now for almost 4 weeks. We're no closer to finding out. It feels like we're no closer to finding out exactly what's happening and when it's officially going to be the off-season now than we were when this started. So, hey, we're doing our best to get through it, right? And speaking of doing their best to get through it, the Chicago Blackhawks are doing their best to stay competitive with Kane and Taves and Keith still in the lineup. Now, Kane is still a premier player. Taves had a very good season. And Keith plays well. He does. He's not the player he was, say, 10 years ago, but he's still a good defenseman. The thing for Chicago is they don't have a lot of cap space this summer. No matter what happens, they're going to be one of those teams that doesn't have a ton of space under the cap, and they've got a couple of relatively big names they're going to be looking at getting signed. Again, as I've been saying in recent videos, bridge contracts are likely the way to go. Crawford's the only UFA that I could find of any kind of value, where he may very well sign somewhere else for a decent chunk of money, or Chicago may decide to keep him around. And if they do, they'll likely have to jettison somebody else. And whether that's through a buyout or through parking money somewhere else, they're going to have to get kind of creative because they've already spent $74.1 million for next season. That's an ouch because you look at their RFA list, Kubalik, arbitration rights as well. So Kubalik, very good rookie season, absolutely agreed there. And now he's going to want to get paid. So it's probably going to be a 2-year, 3-year deal, maybe. And we'll see what the cap hit is. Because, yeah, Kubalik looked like a premier scorer. But, it's rough when you're paying a guy already based on 1 year. And you don't know if he's going to replicate it. And for people who want to say, well, he looks pretty good. Yeah, so did DeBrincat last year, and he didn't replicate it this year. So it is tough year to year to be able to continue to produce at that level. Dylan Strome is RFA this summer as well. There were rumors during the season that Strome might be getting moved. I didn't really report on them because they're just that. They're just rumors. It made sense on some level, maybe on this level, but based on the numbers he put up this year, how much money could he really command as an RFA? So it might have worked out best for Chicago in some manner that both DeBrincat and Strome had down years, although they've already paid out DeBrincat. DeBrincat's got another, I think it's a 3 or 4 year deal signed. So DeBrincat's already got paid. Now it's a matter of finding a way to pay Strome. But they're not going to replace Taves and Kane because nobody is. And I think that's the big question I have with Chicago is, do they have that next big star forward that can step in and be the guy when Kane starts to fall off a little bit? Drake Caggiula, he's a restricted free agent with arbitration rights. They want to keep him if he wants to stay. It's probably easy enough to make that happen. Slater Cuckoo, or the way that I referred to him during the season, it felt like every game I watched it was, what's he going to the box for now? Penalty coming up, looks like it's on Cuckoo. What now? How he just got out of the box. Why is he going back to the box? So if you're a Hawks fan and you feel like that was happening, I'm right there with you. That's just how it felt during certain parts of the year. I think he's a serviceable top 6 defenseman, but if they decide to move on, it wouldn't surprise me. They definitely have their prospects on the blue line. And Malcolm Subban is an RFA with arbitration rights. Now, of course, rumor had it that down the stretch they were just going to ride Crawford into the ground, and Subban wouldn't see much action. We'll never know whether or not that might have been the case. But it stands to reason that they were going to go with Crawford after letting Leonard go, which was a surprise to me that they let Leonard go. This is a team that needs to figure out its future, and they need to figure it out quickly. Now, Dylan Sakura is not a rookie. He's not. But they need to figure out if he's going to be a part of their everyday roster. I think yes. I think Sakura should be on their everyday roster. I think he belongs there. But we'll see what they do. And then what they do with the backup goaltending position, providing that they have a starter. So if they decide to let Crawford go as a UFA because they want to keep Kubalik, they're going to have to figure out their goaltending. Because Malcolm Subban and a combination of either Colin Delia or Kevin Lankinen, that's not likely going to get it done. Unless Chicago decides, you know what, we need to full-on embrace being really bad for a year, and then we can get, a top 3 draft pick next year. I will throw in there that Kirby Doc, yes, he did show at certain points this year a scoring potential and offense, and he's already proven that he was a pretty smart pick where they got him. But I still do wonder if they're going to have enough star players for that next generation after Kane and Taves have moved on. But I would expect more numbers from Doc next year, absolutely. For best contract, this was tough. There were a lot of contracts you look at on Chicago and you go, is that a little high? It looks like that's a little bit high. So I went with Sod, who expires next year at $6 million dollars as being probably the best value contract on the team. Worst contract, I'm sorry to Brent Seabrook, but yes, you're still there. $6.88 million dollars till 2024. It's just, they need more. They need more from him, and of course, they've been trying to unload that contract. There were rumors during the last draft that they were willing to move their number one draft pick, which became Kirby Doc, the number 3 overall pick, in order to get rid of Seabrook's contract. So package that number 1 pick with the poison pill that would be Seabrook's contract in exchange for moving down in the first round. Now, I'm not saying that happened, and I didn't report on it at the time because, again, it was just rumor and speculation. But it made sense, didn't it? It made sense that Chicago, in order to try to open up some money for the future, would look to move almost $7 million in cap off their books, and they're still going to be looking at that. This is where, of course, people will mention, and they're right, that the amount of money being paid to Taves and Kane, it's a lot. It's $21 million for the two of them put together, and it does make it tough for them to get further under the cap. That $74.1 million means once you've signed Kubalik, and if they sign Strome, you don't really have any money left over. Regardless of what happens with next year's cap, whatever they do with the money, this team just doesn't have very much. Now, compliance buyouts, if those show up, then yeah, Brent Seabrook's contract is an automatic kick. And I don't know which one they go with after that. That's the debate, is if you get 2 compliance buyouts, if the NHL brings that back for this, I don't know which contract you kick next. Or do you just get rid of the one and then wait till next summer and maybe get rid of another? Maybe you have 12 months in which you can use those compliance buyouts. Chicago's a team of interest, but they're not a team that looks like they're moving forward. And yet, they do have these winning streaks. They do have these undefeated streaks that make you think, maybe they're capable. And definitely, they scare me on some level. But when you look at their numbers over the last 3 seasons, it's probably just more of me remembering them 10 years ago than looking at what they are now. They were 32, 30, and 8 at the time of the pause, 72 points. 36, 34, and 12 last season, 84 points. So on pace for about the same number of points as last year. And the year before, 33, 39, and 10, 76 points. And of course, that season followed 2017, where they were knocked out in the first round by Nashville. An absolutely stunning defeat, which actually foretold the future. Told us we're probably overrating this team, and they're probably not as good as their record tells you. And since 2017 ended, it's been just ugly for Chicago. But again, they do put together these winning streaks. They do look pretty darn solid, and Patrick Kane can still take over a game all by himself. And when they do the nuclear option and they put Kane and Taves together, it can be special, and it can make things look really good, and it can lead you to believe they're better than they are. And so for Chicago, they've gone through, they got rid of Quenneville, and now they've got Colleton, and now there's talks of, well, maybe they need to move on from Colleton. Whatever they decide to do, I don't know that this roster is going to be good enough to really compete for a playoff spot, especially being in the Central. The Central is brutal. When you've got your also-rans are probably Chicago and Minnesota, probably next year, and I'm saying probably because who knows with how unpredictable the Central is. It does show just how strong it is, because these guys are 2 games above 500, and I'm already looking at next year and going, I don't know how you build to a playoff spot necessarily, unless Doc takes that next step. And then on the blue line, the most likely rookies, Nicholas Beaudin. Bowden came up, or Beaudin came up, and just had the 1 game, so he's still a rookie next year. There are a lot of guys I could have put on the board, but they don't qualify as rookies. And I want to state as well that if somebody doesn't qualify as a rookie in general, I don't have them on the board. And if somebody's likely not playing next year, I also don't have them on the board. Because this is just about this offseason. Like yesterday, I had a lot of Avalanche fans. You didn't remember Newhook. Oh, I remember Newhook. He's not playing next year. I remember Alex Newhook well. I had him in a News of the Day video not that long ago. So yeah, I remember who Alex Newhook is, and he's not playing in the NHL next year. So this is just about who may very well be in the lineup. I also have Lucas Carlson for the Chicago Blackhawks. So Beaudin and Carlson could change the conversation a little bit if both of them are capable of some decent minutes, and maybe it pushes somebody else out. Maybe Oli Mata at some point they go, you know what, we can replace Oli Mata from within, and we can get what we're getting out of Mata from one of these other younger guys and save ourselves a few $1,000,000 and maybe beef up the roster somewhere else. I'm just throwing that name out there. Connor Murphy as well. You might eventually see the Blackhawks saying, well, Connor Murphy, at that price point, we might be able to get some value for him, and at the same time free up some cap space. They're gonna have to do something, I would think, at some point, because again, this gets iffy really really fast unless they go really young in net. But they're not in any position to be bidding for Braden Holtby or picking up a really big name. Maybe you go with Hudobin. Hudobin's likely coming out of Dallas. Might be a reasonable bridge guy you bring in for a year or 2 years and see where you're at after that. Definitely Hudobin showed in Dallas this year he can play. So we'll see what they do. Again, they're an interesting team. They're not as scary as I sometimes think they are when I'm watching them. Again, it's probably because I'm remembering 10 years ago, and there's a number of players on this team who played with them 10 years ago, and even 5 years ago. And I remember just how good they've been. So there you go. The Chicago Blackhawks, their outlook, probably more of the same. I think they're still probably a 500 team. I don't think with Kane up front, they'll fall far below 500 if they do, and it probably depends on the goaltending. So do they get Crawford to come back on a cheap contract for a year or two? Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. As always, don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video, and hey, thank you guys so much for all your support during this time. It means a lot. Do remember, stay home if you can. Stay as safe as you can out there, and I will talk to you guys again very soon.